The deepening Eurozone crisis has been spreading. It started with Greece, moved to Spain, Italy and engulfed Portugal. The Republic of Ireland too has been reported as struggling. There has been a slowdown in other developed countries in Europe. Great Britain, for example, has experienced a double recession and there seems to be no signs of improvement in sight. The situation in Europe at the moment is reflective of what Africans went through in the 1990s with a structural adjustment programs, otherwise known as ASAP. As Greece battles with the Troika for bailout loans, so did African countries try to comply to the ASAP conditions. These involved devaluating their currencies, laying off civil servants and cutting off subsidies to very important services. The major difference between the African situation and the current European crisis is that the latter has been given more bargaining powers.
The key the point that I want to make is that we are a bank for the entire world. We are the World Bank. And we believe that our staff have expertise in times of crisis in places that will allow us to be helpful in countries like Greece. But we're also an organization that is run by its member countries, and we only can intervene if we're asked to intervene. We stand ready to help any country that might benefit from our expertise.
China has already been feeling the effects of the crisis following a decline in its exports to the European Union. Many African nations depend on aid from wealthy Western countries in Europe, America, and most recently rising economies in Asia and Central Europe.
Altogether, we will wait for the report of the Troika, and we will have decided, not just in the Eurozone, for instance, also with the fiscal pact, how important budget discipline and reforms are, and the rule applies, no benefit without austerity. And that is also true for the matter of reforms. And we will have agreed we need a strong Europe with a strong common currency, and this currency must not fail due to omitted reforms in some countries.
Though the European crisis is similar to the African situation, there were no multiple rounds of talks and negotiations involved. Ultimatums were handed down by donor countries through the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, and African countries caught in the economic crisis had no choice but to comply. Many civil servants were laid off and various parastatals were privatized. Salaries almost halved and currencies devalued. This did not curb inflation in those countries. Dependent countries in Africa definitely feeling the effects of the current economic crisis in Europe. Loud cries for help in the Sahel hunger crisis and other humanitarian problems are now falling on deaf ears. Most European countries are busy trying to reconcile and balance their economies. Countries such as Niger and those surviving on tourism, such as Kenya, Tunisia, Egypt, among others, are struggling.
The ECB president, Draghi himself, made a point that buying bonds should never be a substitute for structural reforms or budget discipline. I can assure you that we take him by his word, and that is the right way to do it. You can only get out of difficulties by budget discipline and structural reforms in terms of more competitive capacity in all European states.
The European economic crisis, just like that which happened in Africa, is not an easy one to resolve by selling government bonds. What it needs are fiscal policy reformations which can only be manifested over a long period of time. It has never been easy balancing the role of the government and its responsibilities to its citizens to those of market forces. Market forces do not understand social needs, the importance of pensions to pensioners, or the effects of job cuts on the social welfare of the people. It simply understands the language of balancing figures to engineer confidence in investors and shareholders to keep the money machine wheel going round. One most important lesson that must be taken home from such a crisis is that there are no quick fix solutions, and it always gets a lot worse before it gets better.